Hello and welcome to Brain Says Strange Things. I'm Patrick, this is my brother Jordan, and this is the podcast where we talk about horror movies. I am recovering from a little bit of a cold, so if my voice is a little bit scratchy, I apologize. This episode, we are going to talk about primarily two films, although I think they might give us opportunities to branch off and talk about other things. Yes. As we are wont to do. But the films that we took a look at and we'll be talking about tonight are the 1980s horror comedy cult classic Monster Squad.
I think it was 87.
Yeah, I think 1987. So Monster Squad, a really fun movie that we both like a lot. And we're also going to be talking about a Marvel superhero movie.
Horror movie? No.
Yeah, relatively contemporary Marvel superhero film. Jordan and I are basically fans of the Marvel movies. We have some issues with them, but I don't think we've ever actually reviewed one on this show. So the reason we are talking, I don't think so. So I think the reason we're talking about Monster Squad and Iron Man 3 are because of a guy called Shane Black. Shane Black co-wrote Monster Squad, along with Fred Dekker, who directed that film, and he co-wrote and directed Iron Man 3. So he's kind of the connection between these two films. Jordan, it was kind of your idea to talk about Shane Black and these two movies in particular. Mm-hmm. So do you want to kind of give us a rundown on who is Shane Black beyond these two movies, and why is he of interest to you right now?
Well, I'm not like his biographer. I'm just kind of learning about him since Iron Man 3, so a few years now, but he's primarily a screenwriter. Mm-hmm. Was what he's known for.
More so than a director?
Yes.
Yeah.
He became a director much later on. He's been in the industry for a long time. He's not really even that old. He's kind of like, I think he's like 50 something, but because he started screenwriting when he was a little kid, and he kind of blew up right away because he wrote Lethal Weapon, and that was like a huge paycheck for him.
Yeah, so that's really his claim to fame.
Yeah, that one is. And then he's just got a bunch of weird ones in between, what else is there? Last Action Hero. Mm-hmm. He contributed to the script or story of Predator. It's just like he's got a whole bunch of really weird credits, which make him sound kind of interesting. And lately, since I've been listening to interviews with him, he seems like a screenwriting savant almost, I think. All the connections I hear other people talking to him, he's like a script doctor almost, kind of, even though he still writes his own stuff.
Yeah, and he is working on a new Predator movie, and he has a movie in theaters just about now.
That's also kind of why I thought about doing this too, because it kind of popped up on the radar again.
Yeah, but I feel like he's somebody that you really have come to admire, maybe since Iron Man 3, which... Well,
after I saw Iron Man 3, I instantly look up who the director... I didn't know him before. Mm-hmm. And he had directed a few movies before that.
Okay. Well, I feel like we have a lot to say about Iron Man 3. And before we do that, we'll talk about Monster Squad, which I don't know that we have as much to say about. But it's a movie we both like a lot. Yeah. I think most horror fans, at least who are our age, are pretty fond of this movie. I am, particularly because I love the classic Universal films. So I'm sure...
And the 80s.
Yeah, I'm sure most people have heard of this movie. They know the basic premise. It's basically like what I would say is like a kid's horror movie. Mm-hmm. And it's
kind of like The Goonies.
Yeah, it's got a really great, simple premise, which is there's this group of kids. Most of them are kind of misfits, losers. There's one kind of cool guy in the group. There's a fat kid. But they're this group of young kids, like 12 years old, and they have a monster club where they get together and read monster comic books and talk about monsters and
draw
all kinds
pictures
of stuff. Draw pictures of monsters. So, that kind of thing. And it ends up, happening that... the actual monsters, based on the classic Universal monsters, this is not actually a Universal film, but they get pretty close to those characters, show up in real life and these kids have to stop them. There's a whole plot about some magic jewel and a vortex. And
A lot
all
of
this.
coincidence.
But that's basically it. The kids, these monster-loving kids, have to actually use their knowledge from their movies and comics to fight the real monsters. That's a pretty appealing premise. It's similar to stuff like Fright Night and that sort of thing. A pretty fun movie.
Well, and Night of the Creeps for another
Fred Dekker
movie,
film.
yeah.
Doesn't take itself super seriously. So you like this movie?
I like it outside of its story or lack thereof. I mean, this is the second time I've seen it, and I remember really liking it the first time. Maybe a little less this time. Like, it comes across really cheesy.
Yeah.
And the actors didn't have the same impact as they did. I remember the first time really liking the kids. This time I was kind of like, maybe it's worn off a little bit on me.
I like the little girl. It was pretty
Little girl
funny.
was
She's
funny.
funny.
She's
She's
a good
cute. Yeah.
But that's just because she's almost not even acting. She's just like...
Yes. Well, that's when I
she's
like...
having fun in the movie.
That's when I like kids best in the movie. Like, it's when the kid is too good of an actor, it's almost a turnoff.
Yeah.
See our discussion of Iron Man 3 in a few moments for more on that topic. But no, I like the kids in this movie.
The story is like all... I mean,
It's so basic.
That's why I say I enjoy it outside of the story, because, yeah, it's basic and it's like... And I feel like this is such a bad Shane Black choice, because it's a good it's a good story, but it was co-written by him, and it's... I don't know. It's kind of fun. It kind of shows his headspace, I guess.
Yeah.
It's kind of a fun movie that definitely doesn't take itself seriously, and like it shouldn't. It's a fun movie. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I do think the kind of idea of the movie is better than the actual movie itself. But the idea is good enough that it kind of...
And it's funny. It's funny.
Yeah, it's funny. It's got a good kind of lighthearted tone to it. It is cheesy, but I think it's the kind of cheesy that can work in a movie like this. It's very 80s. Yeah, it kind of works in exactly the way it's supposed to work. There's
The
nothing...
monsters are all kind of like a B grade
Right.
level of...
They're kind of
monsters.
off-model Universal monsters is how I would describe them. I actually really liked...
made for TV. Well, that insult doesn't even work today.
Yeah,
Made for
I
TV.
actually really liked the Gillman character, the creature from the Black Lagoon. I actually
looked cool.
liked... Yeah,
He's
actually,
the only one that really did.
I actually
look
liked
cool.
their spin on the design. I thought Dracula was kind of lame. Frankenstein
I thought Dracula was
okay.
lame when you could see like the white wear off
Oh,
like,
I
right
didn't
around
notice
his
that.
collar. Yeah.
And we, notice, there's a lot of like conveniences and coincidences built into the screenplay.
Yeah.
And
But I mean, yeah.
in a movie like this,
I don't feel like I need to apologize for this.
no,
movie. Like,
it's Monster
fun, yeah.
Squad. So I really don't know that there's too much more to say about it. It's a fun
Yes.
movie.
It was an odd pairing. It was just kind of the first thing I thought of, and I tried to find a horror related movie, and that's
Yeah.
the one. So
Yeah, well, I'm glad we watched it. I mean, I
definitely recommend it.
I saw it as a kid. I remember really liking it, and we watched it for Halloween a few years ago. So it's a fun one to revisit every once in a while. So if you're a horror movie fan and you haven't seen Monster Squad, it's a lot of fun. Unless you're like one of those horror fans who like everything has to be like a hard R. Like I like PG.
But as we were saying, the kids are all swearing in it. Which
Oh
is, like,
yeah,
very
that's another thing
refreshing.
we like about it. I
Yes.
love when little kids swear in
So do
movies,
I.
and there's a lot of
You
swearing.
don't
in
see
this
that a
movie.
lot nowadays.
No,
but
so that was good.
that was pretty refreshing
That's
to
good.
see that.
That's good. I like the kids of Stephen King Rules shirt.
Yeah,
I
that
want
he
like
wears
that
throughout.
exact shirt that
Yep.
he had.
That was good.
Pretty cool. All right. Well,
I like the old parents.
the old parent. Oh
yeah,
yeah,
the parents are so old. Okay, never mind.
No, it is. It is. There's weird things about slightly older movies, like the actors who portray the parents are a little bit older than you would expect they would be.
I just
as
keep
kids.
picturing like what the remake would look like today.
Sleek.
Like
CGI.
very sleek. The mother would be Scarlett Johansson. Like
Right.
someone in their early 20s or something
Right.
like that.
Right. It'd be like a model.
These
or
parents
something.
are like established actors.
Right. They
They're
look
probably
like
known for
mom.
their-
They look like older moms and dads.
Yes.
Life has worn them down a little bit.
Yes.
They're,
The life of acting in movies like that.
Anywho, okay, so watch Monster Squad. All right, enough about that. Let's talk about Iron Man 3.
The official Iron Man 3 apologists.
Yeah, so that's what I was gonna say. So we are the official Iron Man 3 apologists because I don't think we saw this movie together, but we both
No,
saw it.
I remember seeing it separate.
When it first came out, and to me, it was just very obviously really fucking great. I thought it was at the time like clearly one of the stronger of the Marvel Studios movies.
And put it in context.
It was the first one after Avengers,
Yeah.
which was the big team-up movie, and also I think the movie that really kind of elevated the whole Marvel movie sequence. Joss Whedon.
It kind of showed it had life beyond that, because the Avengers seemed like the obvious.
Yeah, I remember being
ending
very
point.
curious about, and I liked Avengers a lot. I remember being very curious about how are they going to go back to a solo hero movie and make that interesting. How are they going to handle that? How much are they going to tie it into Avengers? And Iron Man 3 was that movie. And the approach they took in Iron Man 3, in my opinion, was perfect. I don't think Marvel Studios necessarily shares that opinion, because a lot of the movies that have come after it have been
fans
a little bit
don't.
different.
But I mean, it's successful for the most part. People do like it.
I don't think people consider, a lot of like Marvel fans consider it to be a high mark in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but I do.
Like I told you, it's like I love this movie. Like I'll go so far as saying that I love it. I don't know a lot of people that hate it,
Right.
But I definitely don't know anybody that loves it.
It doesn't stand out to them in the way that it does for you and I.
We feel like it just doesn't get enough credit.
Yeah.
Though.
Well, and I hadn't seen it since it first came out, so revisiting it, I'm like, sometimes I find it was certain kind of movie.
I was a little worried because I'd seen it multiple times, and then you rewatching it, I feel like, man, I've just built this up into.
Well, but even I do that for myself. Like sometimes, like I'll end up defending movies so much that I'm like, ooh, am I defending the movie or the topic? Yeah, or am I like overdoing it? Is this really as good as I remember? But I gotta say, we just got done watching this thing. We're right. This is a good movie. Very well done. And I think one of the reasons that it works so well is because it is just as much a Shane Black movie as it is a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
And I think they've maybe tightened that up a little bit in terms of letting directors really put their stamp on things and their style on things. Maybe.
He might have been the one that kind of caused them. Oh no, it probably would have been Joss Whedon, but he could have been the one that kind of make them pull the reins back on the directors a little bit.
Yeah, well, I think that is a little bit the case. So, I mean, I don't think we need to get into like the whole plot of Iron Man 3, but essentially, like this is a movie. Guy Pearce is one of the villains. Ben Kingsley plays.
Well, now that the story's coming out, he's the gender swapped villain that we found out.
Okay, yes. Oh, we got a lot to talk about here. Okay, so Ben Kingsley and
that's not that important.
Ben Kingsley and Guy Pearce are the villains in this film, and it's basically a strip everything away from Tony Stark, Iron Man, and see who he is underneath the armor in all senses of that. So he literally spends a lot of this movie outside of his armor, kind of MacGyvering inventions and things together,
and kind of working alongside his armor too, a little bit.
Yeah. I really like that movie, and I like that aspect of the movie. And I said, like, while we were watching it, like, I think I lost my train of thought.
That's all right.
You say something.
I remember the main thing that I think about this movie is the backlash that it got.
Okay.
I think the main reason people don't love it, so like I said, people don't hate it, but I even understand a lot of their criticisms of it.
Well, if I do I'm like the best ones are like Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy, Iron Man 3. People are like, what the fuck is Iron Man 3 doing in there? I'm like, it's really good.
And my theory was that I told you is that people are kind of angry that it surprised them because it's not like it constantly, and this is what Shane Black does. What I don't know necessarily like good scripts do, but at least to me, interesting scripts where they keep constantly subverting what you think is going to happen.
Yeah,
and they show you the answer, and one scene later they're like, that doesn't mean anything. That like it constantly keeps doing that, and it makes it more and more interesting. I think, and the fact that the big criticism I always hear is that the Mandarin wasn't like the comics.
Right. So Ben Kingsley plays a really great, menacing, foreboding villain, the Mandarin, who's a very important character from the Iron Man comic books, very powerful villain. He shows up as this kind of pseudo-terrorist.
They make him contemporary, making him into they even mentioned Bin Laden.
He comes up with this great accent where you can't pin him down to any one nationality. He's like this foreign threat. Brilliantly played by Ben Kingsley. And then...
Yeah, now I feel almost like even explaining it like this makes us sound stupid because he's not that.
Right.
But it still works
right.
that way.
And then they flip it. And it turns out that Ben Kingsley is not actually this powerful terrorist villain. He's this very goofy British
he's a
actor
decoy, basically,
playing this villain. It's all a ruse by Guy Pearce's character.
Like, the villain is essentially a red herring.
There was definitely a lot of backlash about this, and I do want to talk about. This is not the only thing people didn't like about Iron Man 3, but I do want to talk about.
This is a big one.
Yeah, it is. It's something I heard a lot. It's something I want to talk about. So, the thing that I always heard about it was, of course, and this is like the Marvel fans, of which I am one. We grew up reading Marvel comics.
Yes.
We love. I mean, we were the only people we knew who read comics. Like, everyone reads comics now, but like, we're Marvel kids. You know, people didn't like the Ben Kingsley Mandarin because they ruined the Mandarin. Like, he's this serious, real threat in the comics, and they made him this joke of a character in the movies. And I think you very astutely pointed out, like, that is what people say bugs them about it.
Yes.
But what really bugs them about it...
I think, like, subconsciously, whether people know it or not, they don't like it because it got them.
They were fooled.
Because even I went into it, it fooled me, but I like being fooled.
Agreed.
In movies.
And
I know that's not typical.
And I've said this before.
People say they like being surprised, and yeah, you're right. I mean, they like being surprised in the way that they expect.
Right. We talked a little about this in our 10 Cloverfield Lane review.
Yes.
People say they want something new, they want to be surprised, but if you really do it in a way that they feel like almost cheated, even though it wasn't a cheat, everything was there. They resent it on a deeper level, I think. And I think that's a little bit of what's going on. Because I think a lot of what certain kinds of fans of these Marvel movies like about them is that they sort of flatter the audience if the audience has this insider information, right? It's explaining to your girlfriend who Thanos is at the end of Avengers, right?
Yes.
Like, you are as smart as the filmmakers, and Shane Black just isn't interested in playing that game. He's frankly smarter than you.
He wants to show you a good movie,
and he's not afraid of taking you places you're not exploring. But mostly why I like the Mandarin thing is that it is so brilliantly played.
Well, that's what I always say. It's like
so well done. He's so funny.
What a great character. I mean, I really even thought, now we're going way overboard, but I thought, like, if Heath Ledger can get nominated for
I totally
Joker,
agree. I don't think that's overboard. I think it is a brilliant
just
portrayal.
because it's, like, comedic and something. Like, because the character basically is, like, what flips in the middle of the plot, you know? It's like, people don't remember the character. People remember what happened, you know? You just does not get... This is hilarious. Remember watching that?
Oh my god, it's fun. It's so funny. It's like laugh out loud funny.
So like it works either way. Like go back and watch, or you don't even have to go back and watch the trailer. You could watch the movie, like as we just did, and the scenes with him as the Mandarin. I've seen it multiple times.
Right.
I know it's not it. Does the fact that I know now in the back of my head that he is not who he's saying he is, does that undercut this performance? Like no, it's still It works both ways.
Right.
It's terrifying.
Yep.
And then when you find out that he's
he's
a joke, he's an actor basically, it's funny.
Yeah.
Like it works both ways.
It all works. You kind of get everything. But
and Shane Black, from what I've heard that he talked about is like the fans don't know what they want. You're focusing too much on these damn comment cards that get handed out.
Right. And, you know, I include myself in that, too. Like, I think, like, a lot of times you and I talk about, like, it's not the fan's job to, like, tell the producers what to do.
Yeah.
I include myself in that, too. Like, that is not really our job. Like, we're not supposed to understand how these... I mean, we are a little bit because we're
Well, also,
doing
the more you're involved with the movie, the less surprising it's going to be.
Right.
I mean... I don't know.
The fans kind of want to make their own movies. They want to tell you exactly what they want to see, and they want to see it on the screen. And
I guess that's why I like Shane Black a lot, because it's like he kind of like what I like about a lot of directors. Well, fewer directors nowadays, but they throw the work out there and they're just like, here it is.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember hearing anything about the making of Iron Man 3. It was like almost below the radar.
Well, and
because people were kind of like, you know, where can they go after the Avengers?
But going off of that a little bit, that you didn't hear a lot about the behind-the-scenes making of it at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Recently, there have been some little tidbits that have come out about the writing and making of Iron Man 3 from an interview that Shane Black did, right?
Yeah, because promoting the new guy or the nice guys now.
Right. So he's been talking recently a little bit about his experiences with Marvel, which is really interesting because he's a, really kind of, I don't want to say independent
maverick.
guy. I don't want to say maverick because he does big mainstream studio movies, but he's a kind of auteur with a vision.
Well, I like I said, I think he's like a savant in the screenwriting. Sure. Like he understands. And
it's interesting to see like how can that fit and work within this big Disney-owned studio system. And in this case, I think it worked pretty well, but there was apparently some friction. They were supposed to have a female villain. Mm-hmm. That didn't happen. But it's like we said while we were watching the movie. Now knowing that, you can kind of see the story he probably wanted to do with the girl.
You kind of see how unnecessary the male character is, really.
But the key point is, if you don't know that they had that conflict, you don't notice that.
Right.
You don't see the seams. Like Marvel gave Shane Black a problem to solve, probably a problem he didn't want. Because the reason they didn't want a female villain is so that they could make action figures of the male characters, which is a whole nother topic. But so they're like, hey, look, this is our studio. We're Disney. You got to put a male villain. He's like, well, fuck, how am I going to make this work? And he made it work. And watching the movie, unless you know that backstory, you don't notice a problem. You don't see the seams.
I've heard him talk about how he's a fan of the Pulp Fiction, not the movie Pulp Fiction, but actual Pulp Fiction, crime detective, problem-solving private eye type stuff. And he talked about reading all these horrible pulp comics, and then the more and more you read, the more obvious things you see, and the more your brain adjusts to that, and it goes, okay, now I've seen that a million times before. Now we're gonna set a problem in front of you. Now you got to get around it some way,
right?
And that's how I feel like he writes.
Yes,
here's the problem.
He's a problem.
You need a big action scene at the end. You need a kid in your movie,
right?
You need a male villain. It's like all these studio problems that were navigated perfectly,
right?
Or maybe not perfectly, but
Well, okay, so one thing that we can see maybe was not great about this movie is there is a cute little Steven Spielberg-esque kid character who's not in the movie that much, but this little kind of toe-headed boy is kind of Iron Man takes him under his wing for a portion of the movie, and the kid has, issues with his dad not being there and bullies. It's a little...
And he likes technology.
But, we kind of, and who knows, maybe Shane Black came in and said, I really want to have a kid in this movie. Yeah. I suspect that was not the case. I suspect this was maybe a situation that was handed to him. And I think...
we're assuming a lot.
We're assuming a lot. But I think, if you're going to have a kid in a movie... a little kid in a movie, which you maybe shouldn't have in this kind of movie, but if you're going to do it, I actually think it was pretty well handled. Mm-hmm. He had Robert...
You almost feel like Robert Downey Jr. is being a voice for the writer or director, saying kind of offhandedly commenting how unimportant the kid is.
Right, right. Or stuff like when the kid starts talking about his dad, he's like, okay, well, dad's leaving.
Don't need to be a pussy
about it. Let's move on. You got to step aside. I'm going to run you over with my car. Maybe that was all Robert Downey Jr. trying to play against something Shane Black wanted to do, but...
we can assume a lot, but it fits... kind of closely, it makes sense.
So the kid didn't work great. The other,
But also what saves it is, the kid's not a bad actor.
No, but I kind of thought he might be a little bit of that too good of a kid actor a little bit. I could see the kid...
trying too hard?
I could see the kid acting a little bit too much. And I don't know. I like kids best on camera when it's almost like you catch them off guard.
Like the little girl.
Like the little girl in Monster Squad, so... Anyway,
it's harder when they get older.
So. That's a minor criticism in this movie. I remember what I wanted to say before is that I also feel like this movie is more really interesting to me because the Marvel movies are so much about setting up the next thing and consequences and what happened in this movie going to have to do with the next movie, and while that kind of stuff is all fun,
being interconnected,
I think this movie actually takes the best advantage of that. Not because it's tied in any important plot sense, it isn't, but because it is a movie that it's really the only real character study in all the Marvel movies. So
it's the deepest alley.
Yeah, this one followed Avengers, right, which is this big alien invasion story, and this story was about Tony Stark as a person dealing with the emotional consequences of
dealing with human problems.
Yes.
It's not how does Tony Stark? I mean, he's having like panic attacks. Like
Right.
him as a person is like breaking down.
Right.
It's not like a problem you solve with
Right.
a magic serum
Yeah.
or something.
And-
he's got to
right.
figure it out.
And while for
As a
me,
human.
as a fan of these movies, as a fan of the comics, it's cool if you see an Infinity Gem and you know that that's going to set up a fight in another movie. But it's a lot cooler if you can kind of extract these real character arcs from these stories.
And why is he having panic attacks? Because people keep mentioning New York.
New York.
They don't say, like, remember when you were fighting with the Avengers? Like,
I
they
love
don't-
that.
They don't make it so
There's no
obvious. Like,
cameo.
remember when you saved the world when you
Right.
were talking with the Avengers? There's none of that
No
shit in there.
cameos, no guest stars.
There's no cut-in scene of the Falcon talking to, like...
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it is. It's, like, seamless. It's like...
Yes.
Well, I mean...
Let's
not go overboard, but it's very expertly.
You know, I'm not gonna.
stitched together.
I'm not gonna. Apologize for being an apologist for Iron Man 3. I really do think it's a very good movie. And what else do I want to say? You like that action sequence where they're falling out of the plane
That's
a lot.
I love it.
That
That's
you
the
thought was
best
the best action
scene
sequence
in
of the
any
movie?
Marvel movie. Yeah.
So they
and a lot of Shane Black does that well. He does action and he does comedy well.
Yeah.
I mean, what more do you want?
And I think
An
you have
Iron
to
Man
give a
movie.
lot of credit to Robert Downey Jr. in this movie,
Mm-hmm.
who is hilarious in this movie. I mean, he's just really. I've never been. He's always entertaining as this character, but I've never been so entertained. by Tony
I've heard
Stark.
interviews with him and Shane Black, and they're very much kind of like two minds
They're a
meeting
good
together.
fit.
Like, yeah, they're like a very good fit together.
It's
like,
kind of
I
like-
could kind of write the scene like how it happened.
Yeah.
The Marvel studio doesn't really know Shane Black. He doesn't really have. He's not on their radar.
Yeah.
And then Robert Downey Jr. is like, Favreau's out, and Robert Downey Jr. is like, hey, I worked with this guy on Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Yeah.
Take a look at that movie, will you?
Right.
And then if you see Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, you're like, holy shit! Like,
Yeah.
get this guy. Like,
Yeah. And I do
him
think
directing Robert Downey Jr.
right.
is like,
and I do think
lightning in a
we
bottle.
also have to give credit to Marvel as a studio and the producers
Yeah.
for allowing him to make this movie and
Mm-hmm.
allowing directors like James Gunn to come in and kind of make a James Gunn movie that's still a Marvel movie, and I hope they keep going in that direction. I want to see more kind of quirky, kind of individual films that reflect the sensibilities of the individual directors, rather than like these kind of studio cookie cutter type films. Like it's okay to have a Marvel style.
Well, the one you can compare it to, and the one I would compare it to, but you probably wouldn't, would be Civil War
Okay.
and Ant-Man,
Okay.
which are kind of like, well, let's talk about Ant-Man because we don't agree about
You
Civil
and I
War,
disagree on Civil War, and we don't have time to get into
But
this.
with Ant-Man, you can definitely. I'm not saying like the movie couldn't have been directed by someone else other than Edgar Wright and not have been good. There's a lot of double negative.
No, I'm with you.
But okay, I'm not saying Edgar Wright is the Magic Man,
Right.
And without him, like, forget it. Don't
Right.
even make an Ant-Man movie.
And of course, Ant-Man famously, Edgar Wright parted ways with the studio, and they kind of had to scramble to.
And he's never really talked about that either, so that'll be interesting, like when that comes out later. But you can see how
The
it was put
seams.
together
You can see the seams.
while you're watching it.
Yeah.
Not
agreed.
like this.
Agreed.
Not like where you can kind of. And even with Iron Man 3, we're not sure that's what it happened.
Right.
We don't really know. We can kind of assume a
Yeah,
lot.
but it's
and
a
it
sleek,
fits.
it's an elegant finished film. Ant-Man was a clunky kind of, you could see where they could have gone a different direction. There was looped dialogue, inserted scenes at the last minute. It kind of looked
Things
like
that
what it
were
was.
in the trailer that weren't in the movie. It's just
All
like,
the signs were there
Yes,
of trouble
yes.
behind the scenes, even if you didn't know about it.
Yes, and I didn't even think about that with Iron Man 3, but that is true, is that... Well, I didn't think about it because I didn't know about these facts or the Shane Black interview, but when you're watching it, you don't think of that stuff.
Right.
Which is why I think you're right. He's like a complete problem solver.
Right.
Like, that is a very
Well,
strong
and
talent.
he also was able to and willing to, and Marvel was willing to allow him continue to work with them to arrive at a solution, right? It's not like you can't use a female villain, well, then I'm out.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
can't set it during
It's like-
Christmas. Like, that's a Shane Black
Right.
staple. That's not a Marvel staple.
Right.
Don't put that in there.
Right.
they
It's
let
like
him
he's
put
like,
it.
look, this is a
No, I give Marvel a lot of credit.
you know,
Like,
Marvel gets credit and Shane Black gets credit. Like, he's doing work for hire. He's working for Disney. There's certain things that have to happen. This is a franchise film that needs to kind of hit certain beats. You got to sell action figures. You got to sell comic books, you know? And he was able to navigate around. Again, he's a problem solver. and that's a lot of what script writing is. So anyway, I feel like we're rambling a little bit. I don't want to go through all the Marvel
I'll
movies.
also mention Drew Pearce, the guy that co-wrote Iron Man 3-2.
All right.
Which I've kind of followed a little bit. He's got an old superhero TV series.
Oh, no.
That's not... No, it's actually... you can watch clips of it on YouTube. It's not available like to stream anywhere or see. I mean, he's a British...
What is it?
Director. I can't remember the name of it. Like it's like No Heroes Allowed or No Heroes or something like that.
Okay.
This is really bad because I'm just remembering Drew Pearce. But,
Okay.
And he directed and wrote that the one shot, the All Hail King.
Yes.
Too.
Yes. All Hail the
So
King.
I don't know how much credit goes to him and how much
Sure.
goes to Shane Black.
Sure.
But I did notice like things that he used in that TV series of which I can't remember. But the dialogue in this movie, you can tell it's got kind of like a British flair to it.
Yeah.
When he's saying like it's Pinchy in the gooey bag, like that's a line from his old TV series.
All
like,
right.
That's not like that's just kind of like an example of, and even when the Mandarin's talking and he's talking about the women being birds, you know, it's like, I don't know.
It
has a different flavor to it, and you also notice it too. This is becoming a Drew Pearce episode, but he wrote the new Mission Impossible movie, Rogue Nation, which I think was very good as well.
Okay.
So I'm an apologist for people like that movie.
All right.
But no, it's like it's an American-made movie with kind of like a British like it feels like it's like a good mixture of things.
Yeah. Yeah, it has that little kind of flavor to it.
All right, now we're definitely around.
Okay. What other movies have you seen recently?
I saw The Revenant the other day.
All right. Well, we will save the discussion for these other movies for another time.
I figured I'd talk a lot because your voice. I was doing it as a favor.
Don't think I don't appreciate it. Okay, well, I think that's... I'm glad we got to talk about a Marvel movie finally.
Yes.
We talk about them a lot. We've really seen all of them. But like I said, we haven't talked about them here. So that was fun. I think that'll about do it for our Shane Black episode. And I don't know what we'll talk about next time. Maybe another superhero movie. Maybe a horror movie.
Hopefully a horror.
Hopefully a horror movie.
Oh, whatever.
Maybe a superhero horror movie.
There you go.
There you go. But, we already did a superhero horror episode.
Oh, for God's sake.
Okay, maybe this will be our last episode. Anyway, it won't be because we'll see you again soon on Brain Says Strange Things. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.